Thank you, everybody, for joining us back here at Cytta Corp's channel. We're sitting here once again with the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Gary Campbell. And Gary, you guys have been quite busy, but how are you holding up as we're kind of going into the holiday season here?
Well, we've been pressing very hard to get the release that we put out this morning, recognizing where we've come with Reticulate Micro, who's the spin-out entity that is dealing with our super compression codec. And we were very fortunate to get one of the premier firms in America in this area, Boustead Securities. So they've given us a very strong thumbs up on the project. It was presented. They have some pretty extensive technical expertise, particularly in this area, and they signed on, and they're very, very big supporters of it. They were very big supporters of it generally from the Cytta point of view as well before we spun it out. So it's always been a major fascination, and our ability to move it forward so quickly is beyond exciting. It's going to be amazing.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, congrats on this engagement with that. I thought it was Boustead Securities, but either way, honestly works, I guess. But and from
tomato,
there, so then
tomato.
Yeah, potato. That's how it goes. No big deal. But then tell me what doors this really opens for Cytta and for Reticulate Micro in the future.
Well, having there's a lot that goes into having investment bankers sign on at the level they've signed on, and there's a tremendous amount of review. There's complete evaluation of the business model of the company. Pro formas have to be produced. Of course, the technology, given that they'd already evaluated it once before, there's no surprises there. But when you're taking the technology through development process to FPGAs and then creating literally ASIC chips, that's requires confirmation that the team that's been put together has that expertise. And in Reticulate Micro, the team that they've got in there, and they haven't all been announced yet, but we have a lot of confidence in their ability to do what they're going to need to do with the codec itself, and their ability to monetize it into the markets they're talking about. So again, all of that is fascinating. And ultimately, that company will be doing, a major round prior to, listing on a major securities exchange. So that's the anticipation at this point.
Yeah. Thanks for that update, that insight. We if anyone has any questions about that, don't be afraid to ask. But Gary, I kind of want to turn to talk a bit more about Eigen now, if we can. What's the update?
Sure.
What's been going on in the Eigen world?
Wow. Well, we've been programming to Michael Collins' Vision Quest really for almost a year now, which is a little longer than we anticipated, but when we started programming, the idea was to really create our own code that could do what Eigen 1.0 could do, and add a few small upgrades and bells and whistles. What the team has created and they've envisioned for us is a complete social network, but it's different than the social networks you think of, which are controlled, like Facebook, those type of things, which are controlled by somebody else, and you're a participant in their social network. The beauty of the new Eigen social network is it's a private social network. You invite who you want to it. You have complete encryption and security with everything you do on there, and nobody can get into your portion of the social network unless you invite them in there, and you can uninvite them at any point in time. So your family is safe, your information is safe. Nobody's doing the things that started happening when simple social networks started changing into social media. And there's tons of advertising. It became different, and then people started following other people rather than interacting with their own group of friends and people. So what we built for first responders, the security, the pieces, all the elements that we put in there really started taking what our IGAN was way beyond the capability of moving video and audio from drones and body cams and that type of thing to other people. We created a completely interactive platform for them to do multiple things.
Wow. Yeah, Gary, this is something we as we talked about what the IGAN is evolving into, opens up tons of pathways from here. It can kind of run wild at this point.
Well, it's happening a little bit like that because obviously, our initial market for the IGAN was the same market the 1.0 was being sold into, primarily first responders, fire, security companies who are acting very much like first responders, have the same needs and wants. And then also, the commercial side of it would be people who are using drones for evaluating anything, whether it's oil and gas pipelines, whether it's transmission lines. So perfect solution for all of that because it allowed, the videos from remote locations to be collaboratively shared. Well, now ultimately, they had various incident command capabilities. So some of the very big departments like Dallas was using multiple incident command capabilities, even though they originally just started out using the drone side of it. So the incident command side was being used, the storing of videos for their evidence for future use cases was being used. So all of these very, very cool dashboard features that we built were being used and utilized, and we were developing them as they kind of needed them. So what we ended up doing there is really taking it to a completely different level where suddenly you have a lot of features in there. When you're talking Zoom capability or Teams capability or anything like that, well, effectively that's what the first responders use it for. They use it in place of that. All their media comes through there, their interaction comes through there. So it is technically an individual Zoom replacement. And there's elements before you go kind of worldwide with these type of big pieces. You have to do the work, make sure it's bulletproof, and then expand as necessary. So the first thing that we realized was we had the capability of alerting into a law enforcement IGAN from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, literally. So and that was the thinking that caused us to start developing the school SOS module. So really a simple idea. Basically, you have people that are remote, and through an access point, whether it's an application on their phone or an icon on their phone or QR code on the wall, they're able to send an alert in real time to a law enforcement organization. And that created that, and that doesn't require 911, and the law enforcement organization is able to interact directly with them through the phone, through the microphone on their camera, and they can, so instant communication, instant network created, and instant ability to get real-time data of whatever type of emergency you're seeing. So that is a variation on the functionality that we gave police officers, but in this case, it will make a remarkable difference where they have nothing else. They don't have to have anything else in that situation, just those little pieces. And, we're putting it out there in that format.
Yeah, it's kind of like a disintermediation between the people and law enforcement. You're removing a lot of the middlemen in there and giving them pretty much direct connection, which can help a lot when there's any sort of situation in which they would need law enforcement. The time is of the essence every single time. And this is a group of people that pretty much everyone agrees we should be doing whatever we can and implementing what we can to protect them too.
And, for us, that's a very, very simple equation. If the local law enforcement has an IGAN, then we can deliver it to, the schools in their area at a very low cost. What we did find, though, was it's obviously more functional if the school has an IGAN as well, because they network.
Mhm.
So, the model is really turning into the administration, the teachers in the school are the ones that report directly to the first responders, because you don't want, 200 children reporting in there. So there's tiers that they build up through their administrative structure. But then what happens is the school puts in, the software for an Eigen. And when I say put in an Eigen, it's simply a software download. So no hardware, no anything. It's there. You go in with your code. And what they're modeling out, and we're getting really good acceptance to the schools installing it, is that would allow all of the children in the school to then report up to the school's Eigen, and they would monitor that directly. So the administration would monitor their school, they'd get that in real time, and then those alerts would, as necessary, be passed directly through their Eigen onto the first responders Eigen if it merited that type of a response.
Yeah. And so, Gary, I guess with all these different use cases popping up and everything, tell me about where most of the marketing efforts and everything are going to be happening in 2023.
We're really being asked right now to look at statewide rollouts into the school systems. We're looking at, a number of counties in Texas at this point that have indicated that they want to do that rollout and make sure that their particular law enforcement organization is driving it. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be law enforcement driving it and taking charge in that. So it's really spreading outside of our control at this point. The interest is amazing, and so that marketing is getting very viral, and we've been asked to do a lot of different things. The other key markets for us are still the first responders who do it from a drone forward point of view. The private security companies, of which there are almost as many private security companies in the U.S. And by that I mean equivalent to law enforcement in a lot of ways. It's not kind of the mall security guard. We're talking the serious ones. Yeah. And then of course any enterprise that hires 107 drone pilots to go and evaluate pipelines, power lines, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all fantastic markets for us. And we're also, in concurrence with that, we're talking with some people who are looking to package their drone sales with the Eigens as a mechanism to give their clients a better deal. So there'll be some interesting things we'll be coming up with, announcing in January in those regards. And again, also tying in to some of the drone manufacturers that we have agreements already to install Eigen into them.
Yeah, it really sounds like there's a lot coming in 2023, everybody. So we hope you stay tuned. And again, if you have any questions, do not be afraid to send them over. But Gary, thanks again for coming on, sharing your insight on the recent developments. Is there anything else you want to add before we go today?
Yes, no, I think our experience is really interesting when you have a really talented group of developers, and they get to come up with things. So I'm just so excited what we created and where it's going to be going in the future. And as we say, we alluded to a lot of social network elements. We'll be spending more time on how these pieces become and give people those capabilities until Eigen ultimately becomes this new form of social network where not only all the parents of the children are using it, but all consumers generally are able to use it in their markets.
Yeah, sky's really the limit here, Gary. But again, thank you for coming on and chatting. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If we don't get to chat again, hope you guys have some wonderful holidays. And Gary, please have a wonderful day.
Take care. Bye-bye.